Consume, enhance, replicate.
Sounds good. Have you ever had chimichurri?
Chimichurri. That sounds really familiar.
It's a type of sauce. It's South of I can't remember which one. Peruvian. It's South
Mm-hmm.
American.
Okay.
It's their table sauce. Like it's their version of ketchup. And it's essentially a bunch of herbs and spices,
Hmm.
uh,
That sounds familiar,
chopped
but
up
I can't.
really fine, and it's put on steaks a lot of time.
Oh, yes, I have. Okay, yes, I do know that.
Yeah,
I'm not usually
super
a
yummy.
big. I'm not usually a big person for putting things on steaks, but I
I
have.
can
I
grill a really nice steak, but I do like chimichurri too.
Yeah.
So it's
See,
like
I don't like my steaks cooked, so.
I make mine. I got a nice medium on the steaks that we have right now because we don't have a very good grill because we got our grill for free.
I'm the one
We,
that's like, can you just bring the cow in? Like
yeah,
that's good.
I'll just yeah, vampire episode next
Yeah,
week's gonna be
yeah.
interesting then.
Just give me a knife and we'll figure it
Give
out.
me a vein and we'll be fine. Uh, yeah,
Oh.
no, we had chimichurri because Julie and I are doing keto. I'm doing
Mm.
intermittent fasting too, but she's
Yeah.
doing keto, which is
Anna's doing the intermittent thing.
yeah, I've done it before. It's just I'm doing it a little bit more hardcore now, and Julie's done keto before, and it's like her um
Is keto?
favorite
No, that's
diet.
paleo. Paleo is the one that you have to pretend like you're cave people.
Basically, keto is like a
I
version of
pissed
that.
off one of our executives who was doing paleo because I'm like the worst person to talk to about diets because I'm like
Hmm.
half the time I forget to eat. Like I just like
Right.
my brain doesn't
You
work.
do accidental intermittent
Yeah,
fasting.
yeah, that is probably the best. Like today we had an office party at a club
Hmm.
downtown, and like both me and my good teammate, we're sitting there. We're walking across the street. We're like, oh shit, we didn't eat.
Hmm.
Like we got in there and they're like, well, do you get an alcohol? I'm like, I don't. I have no like. I've gotten back into the mode of just
Consume,
not drink, like
enhance,
having no
replicate.
inclination to drink.
Hey, thanks for
No,
the resub. Say it
thanks for the
again.
sub. But so like for me, it was like whatever. I don't care. I was like, are you gonna have food? And they're like, yeah, we'll have finger food. I'm like, we're gonna need like 5 rounds of that because
5 rounds. It's like
because
going to a
like
tapas
it
place
was
and then
yeah, it was
expecting a
like
plate of food.
I'm like there's me who hasn't eaten, there's my coworker who hasn't eaten, and two other guys walked in with the same, like we all are the same, like that's probably why we work well together, is because we all just like when we start working on something, we are working on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we will work on that thing, and we get in trouble constantly by our managers because they're like, you have been working on the same thing for 3 hours, you need to stop, like, you know, just take a break. But it's like, well, it's still not fixed, like we still need to figure it out. But so
Right.
yeah, it's like, but anyways, like it was like a year or two ago, one of our executives was like talking to another associate in one of our meetings, and she was talking about the paleo diet or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, she was complaining because it made getting cookie, like she was trying to figure out how to do cookie, like chocolate chip cookies. She had figured out like you could do something like some
There's
almond flour or something. I don't know,
yeah.
some weird
You
thing.
can use almond flour or coconut flour and
Anyways,
something called swerve, which is like sugar alcohol that's been
I'm,
reduced into like
I'm
sugar
sitting
form.
there and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
the fuck are you talking about?
Uh-huh.
And she's like, well, the paleo diet. And I'm like, what is this? And she starts, she's like, well, it's, you know, trying to blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, so you're hunting your food? And she goes, no. I'm like, then how do you eat anything? If you're supposed to be going back to your roots, I mean, go get your stone spear. Let's go hunt down some deer. And she's like,
Stone spear.
she's like, I'm not
Oh,
talking
good
to you ever
lord.
again. I'm like, this is why you don't tell me things like this.
You know,
So
paleo is
for the-
actually not too bad.
So for the rest of the
Keto's-
year,
keto's
I was like, did you find some wild almonds to hunt? She's like, I hate you so much. I'm like,
Wild almonds.
I'm also the one that I'm not allowed to talk about almond milk because I refer to it as nut juice.
I mean,
It's
yeah,
not wrong.
It's not any
wrong.
better though. It's not any better
I'm
than
like,
almond milk.
I'm like,
Do you want to?
you
do you
are
want to milk
literally
the almond,
talking
Jay?
about.
Do
Huh?
Do you want to milk the almond?
Yeah, no, I'm like, I refuse to drink almond juice because it tastes disgusting. But like I like at work, I'm just not. They're like, no, you're no. And I'm like, hey, look, if you don't want to talk about drinking nut juice, that's fine. I don't want to talk about drinking nut juice either. And they're like, God damn it.
You know what though? Almond milk is way better than coconut milk.
Coconut milk is like dirty water.
Yeah, so the new fad up here is that they've started using coconut milk as the coffee. Like if you're getting a
No,
latte, it's the
no.
new. Oh God, yes, that is what's happening up here. It's the
Like
new
I'll
thing.
drink
Oh,
a
it's so
latte with
bad.
almond milk. I'll grumble about it, but I'll drink it. But I actually really like oat milk.
Yeah, I mean,
especially for
oat
lattes.
milk
Like,
is literally just like oatmeal, like
Yeah.
juice.
Yep.
That's all it is.
yep,
Is
which is
oatmeal
why I
juice.
love it.
It's
just-
just
I love it.
carbs. It's just
And-
carbs.
Anna can't stand it. She's like, this tastes like, I'm like, it tastes like oatmeal. She's like, I know, it's disgusting. I'm like, I like it because I can drink it without getting an upset stomach. Unlike milk, because milk, I think I have started to develop a lactose intolerance, or at least it's starting to get worse.
Yeah. I have a mild case of it, and for the most part, I'm fine. I don't have to deal with it. But if I like pure milk, I cannot do.
Yeah, I did manage to eat a bowl of ice cream the other night without getting sick. That was nice.
Yeah.
It makes me
I don't
sad
get
though because I can't.
sick,
Well,
it's
not
just-
sick, like upset stomach.
Yeah.
But it makes me sad because we go out to we found this new Thai place and they're like, oh, we want to thank you for coming in, and they gave us like Bluebell ice cream for free,
Uh-huh.
and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I hate you. Like, this is the
I
best
mean,
ice cream ever, and I'm
I
like,
know.
I'm like,
You just have
"Ugh."
to start carrying the little tablets because those actually
Yeah,
help.
my one of our doctors was telling us there's like a powder or something that you can get that basically it's because it's a lack of enzymes, as she was saying.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yep.
oh, okay. It's peanut butter sticky nut juice. You're not wrong. Depends on
You're
on what type of
You
peanut butter.
shouldn't be right, but you're definitely not wrong.
Yeah, because most peanut butter out there right now is basically pureed sugar.
Uh, depends on the brand. Actually,
That's what
I
I mean.
find that the store brands like Kirkland brand or Kroger brand actually don't have a ton of sugar in them.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. Surprisingly, they're just plain peanut butter with
Yeah,
some
we
salt.
have. I think it's Hy-Vee is the big Hy-Vee and Hen House. I want to say is we go to Hy-Vee, but there's a Hen House, I think. But our Hy-Vee has like a huge organics thing, and they have this big thing where they're like, you can grind up your own peanut butter. I'm like, that is really weird, but I'm also really intrigued. I want to try this.
I mean, it's
Like,
actually
I'm
not
like,
that bad.
no,
And
I
it's
know, I know. It's just one of those things where every time I walk by, I'm like, what is this magic? They also have a kombucha keg.
yeah, kombucha is
Oh
amazing.
my god, I am not the one that you have to preach to. That would be my wife. My wife thinks it's absolutely disgusting.
That's
I
funny.
love it.
It's
I'm
so
like,
good.
I have they have a apple cider. What was it? It's apple cider ginger or something. So anyways, oh, or apple cider chai. That's what it is. Oh my god. Oh, it's delicious.
You know the whole it's making you hungry. Sorry, Zach. There is a farmer's market near where I live, and there's always a kombucha stand there,
Hmm.
and they rotate types of kombucha every week.
Oh,
So I've
nice.
had like lavender lemonade based kombucha and
Oh,
different
that
tea
sounds.
types kombucha. Oh yeah, it's a
Yeah,
huge
there's
thing.
one.
And
There's I think it's a big brand, but it's called the Gut Bomb, or maybe it's the
uh-huh.
style. Every time I look at it, I'm like, I really want to try you, but I also have a voice in the back of my head going, "Do you really want to try this?"
Well,
I'm like,
all the good bomb is all the extra probiotics because that's what you're drinking essentially.
so is that just like a heavy green tea one?
Yeah, so
Okay.
okay, my mother also makes kombucha, which is a dangerous prospect, and I still refuse to actually try it because my mom's not good at cooking. And if you know how
Listen,
kombucha is made,
listen. Kombucha is
you
just
don't
literally
want
feed the mother.
yeah, I mean that's what it is. It's literally like a jellyfish that you're having to feed sugar like an
It's
Amish
like
friendship bread or sourdough or
it's like
it's
watching apple cider vinegar. It's like,
mhm.
does it have the mother? I'm like, does it have the what? Like, are we playing Final Fantasy? What the fuck are you talking
Yeah,
about?
I
Like,
mean, it looks like a jellyfish. It's disgusting looking, but it makes because basically it's just it's just like fermenting,
oh
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
way grosser. And that's not a word, but I'm gonna say it's a word. What the hell? This is a thing.
Kombucha's great. Like,
It
it's pretty
it
interesting to watch being
yeah.
made.
It oh yeah, it tastes great. It just is disgusting if you know
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
is,
It's like
which
sausage.
is what a lot of people have problems with.
It's like sausage. Just
We
be
should actually
careful.
start the recording.
Oh yeah. All right,
I
I
have not.
have Audacity up.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, click.
Okay.
But yes, food talk. Sorry, it always comes to food talk between
It's usually because by
Blue
the
and
time
I.
I get on, I've just like recently remembered, oh, hey, I need to eat. So I'm hungry.
Food
But I
is
actually,
good.
food is good.
Food is very.
Never heard of it. So kombucha is like basically,
It is considered fermented tea.
as I say,
So
is it a
it's
tea? I think, yeah.
yeah,
It's
you
weird.
generally use tea bags. You don't like there is a type of fermented tea that is literally fermented tea bags. It starts with a P. I cannot remember how to pronounce it. But that is totally different than kombucha because kombucha has more of a vinegar-like taste to it. It is not vinegar per se, but it does have a vinegar aspect to it.
Is that
And really,
because of the mother?
it's because it's sugar that's being
Ah,
processed.
okay. That makes sense. Okay.
So it's that fermentation process happening, and because of it being processed by the mother itself, it excretes the more gosh, there's just so many bad things that are coming to mind with this one. Um,
It's a very, it's a
it's
very
a unique
moist
flavor.
process.
It is a very moist process. Something is birthed at the end of it. You drink it. Oh my.
I'm gonna make Hannah listen to this shit.
She's gonna hate me. Oh god. No, it's actually really good. There are really bad versions of kombucha though,
Oh,
like
yeah.
not gonna lie. There are
Yeah, you have to be
terrible,
careful.
like super, super vinegary ones. Then there are super sugary ones, which is not any better. There's like happy mediums that you have to find, and it takes a while to find
Mhm.
your favorite preferred type.
Yeah, you have to brave some interesting ones, especially if you
Yeah.
especially if you do like what I do, and I'll find like local ones, and I'm like, man, I love like local, like little home mom pop stuff.
Oh yeah.
Kombucha is a dangerous thing to do with that, like because you'll
Like
have
I
to like
said,
I mean you just have to
my
take
mother.
sips, like you have to take sips
Oh,
at
yeah.
first because you don't want to jump full bore into one of those. Like I've
To
done
be
that.
fair, like I grew up not knowing what good roast beef tasted like. So not to like dish on my mom at all, but she's just not that great of a cook.
I mean,
She
so you
didn't
had burnt
qualify.
ends is all you had. I mean, that's okay.
You know, burnt ends have actually flavor. Just saying. I just grew up with my mother had a habit of cooking
So the fire
the
alarm was
roast
the
beef
timer.
until I mean it didn't quite get to that point because she didn't roast it. She always crock pot it, and she always let it
Oh
go way too long.
no! Oh
So it was
no!
just dry, stringy floss that had a slight meat flavor to it.
It was jerky.
It was. It
I've had
was.
that.
It was
I've had that
terrible.
before. That
Oh
is
my
terrible.
gosh.
Oh
But
my
I
god.
don't know. It's fine. Julie knows how to cook a roast. She's cooked a roast for my mother. My mother has gotten better. But growing up, it was real rough. We had a lot of spaghetti because it was just not her fit. Like, it's just not her thing. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
though.
growing up, we had what was hamburger helper was our big thing.
Oh yeah,
Mostly because
those
most of
are
the time
good.
we were cooking for ourselves, and so it's really hard to mess those up.
Yeah. We had some really funny, weird things that we would cook for ourselves when we got home because my mom was at school oftentimes. She was going to college while we were going to school. And so my brother had a habit of making fried zucchini every day after school. He would just go out in the garden, pick a
Okay,
zucchini, chop it up into little pieces,
and like
throw
just
it in a frying pan
like
with butter, and that's it.
okay, yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
saute
just
almost.
yeah,
That's
that
not too
was his
bad.
go-to. Yeah, no.
I'm trying to think
I
what
had a
art like.
habit of eating tater tots. That was my thing.
No, like I'm trying to think our good too. Like we actually had like thinking back, we actually had a pretty good robust like between like me and my siblings, pretty robust skill set when it came to cooking random shit. like
Oh yeah.
like like our go-to was always something like we would always take something really basic like mac and cheese or something, but
Mhm.
we would never like we never just ate just the mac and cheese. Like there was always like we either would saute onions and make our own chili and then put it in there. We would do lots of like fried sausage and mix it in. Like we'd always mix in stuff on top of it. Surprisingly, mixed vegetables really taste really good in mac and cheese.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't. It's like one of the only ways that we could get my brother to eat lima beans because it would be coated in cheese and it would actually
Well,
have flavor.
to be fair, that is a really good way to eat
I
lima
mean,
beans.
lima beans are basically the vegetable equivalent of black holes. Like that's really
No, peas. Peas are the
no.
yeah,
Lima
anyway.
beans are the ones that you bite into, and there is literally it takes away all taste in your mouth.
Right. but
Peas
so do
have a
peas.
taste. Like
No, sweet peas, like snap peas,
oh
have a
yeah,
taste. Canned peas are just yeah, I have a thing with peas. Cole and I have fights about this. She loves peas. I fucking hate peas.
I don't care.
I
I'm the only one
hate
in
them
my
so
family that would
much.
eat lima beans because
Oh.
I'm like I just don't care.
Yeah,
Because again,
have those are fine.
I approach food as an energy source most of the time,
Yeah.
so it's like it's edible.
Yeah, no. Peas have never been my thing. It's still like the number one childhood food
That's
that
like
I'm like, nope, I
my
won't.
little sister refuses to eat broth, which
That's
cracks.
really weird.
Oh, it's so weird. Like there is no logic to to the reason why.
That's
But the funny thing is she loves soups. Like, but if
she knows that
no,
90%
yes,
are made
that's
broth.
that's where like the hilarity is. It's like, so it's not actually broth. It's something with like and there's like this balance point
itself.
where if it's more broth than a certain amount, it's she's
Oh,
just
good
like, it's
lord.
so funny. She's
That's
not
ridiculous.
picky. Like, that's the funny thing is she's not picky at all. But when she just was like, nope. Oh man.
That's so goofy. All right.
All right.
I have a feeling we're gonna get back into food
Oh,
as
yeah,
we're talking
probably.
about video games, just because it's you and I. But you
Yeah.
know, it's fine.
That's the go-to.
So, are we titling this games we want to play, games we wish we had played?
Games that I have not played that
Game.
either like I'm kind of approaching it games that I wish I had played or wish I could play or had time to
Okay.
play. I promise
'cause
I
I
won't
have-
say Destiny.
I have, yeah, that too. I have one on here that's not released yet, but I'm really kind of excited for it because it's unique. I'm probably gonna
Yeah, I
put
have
it as my also rank.
Yeah, I was about to say I have a good number of also rans, and I kind of
Okay.
my number one is kind of a bit of a cheat, but that's also we'll get to it.
That's all right. Cool. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Welcome to FFC Top 3, a show where we your FFC blah 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 bloopers for the mid-roll. I can't even say bloopers.
Yep, it's okay.
And restarting
English
again.
is a thing.
Yes, we can have a blooper roll. It's fine. I was trying to do like a drifter opening, but that's not happening. Welcome to FFC Top 3, a show where we, your FFC hosts, count things down from 3 to number 1. Thank you for joining us this week. If you have a suggestion, you can shoot it over to us through the interwebs. If you want to send it by carrier pigeon, I can't guarantee it'll get there, but if it does, Blue will feed it some birdseed. This week.
If it actually still waiting for that one from last. I think was it last month. We'll send it by pigeon. Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck.
The owl. What is it
Oh,
called?
the owl post. Owl post. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. No. This week we're talking about top 3 games we wish we had played or had time to play, or just top 3 games we've missed as far as Blue and I, because it's just the two of us tonight. So, as always, we're going to have Blue go first. I'm going to go last, just like every week. Blue, what is your number 3 games you wish you had played?
Yeah, so my number 3 is one that I'm trying to actually I'm actually trying to chip my way in through it, is Witcher 3. I missed out on Witcher 2, but I didn't put it on there. Like, I love the Witcher 2 story arc. It's really great.
Mhm.
I was not a big fan. Like, my biggest thing with games is actually the biggest thing that gets in the way is time. I don't have a lot of free
Yeah.
time, but also I have become very picky about mechanics. Like, if it's a mechanic that I'm not feeling it, and it goes back to my first thing, time. My time is so limited that I've gotten into a really bad habit, and I don't even know if it's a bad habit, but I've gotten into a habit of, like, I'll give a game like 30 minutes, and if I'm just like not feeling the mechanics, I'm like, look, I'll read the story and I'll watch cutscenes. Like, I'll watch they'll do the cutscene movies on YouTube and stuff, but I just won't play it. Like, I'm just like, I don't have time to grind through games anymore. And so Witcher 2 was kind of in that regard. I wasn't feeling the mechanics of Witcher 2. So I didn't really, and like, the story is amazing. The story is awesome. Witcher 3 came out, looks amazing. It looks awesome. And it finally came up on Xbox Game Pass, which Xbox Game Pass has done huge favors because you can actually download the games and just try them, and there's like no guilt because you're not paying like $60 to try out a game that you could not like.
Right.
So that's actually made my list. Actually, it was really hard to put the list together because all the games that I would have put on here, I've already actually tried because of the Xbox Game Pass. So Witcher 3 came up, I think it was like a month or two ago, and I downloaded it, and I just started it up like last week. So it's like it's in that gray area of like I still haven't I would consider not having have played it yet, but I am chipping away at it. But it is one that is on the list for sure. And I mean, the mechanics are, for anyone out there who hasn't played it yet, I really appreciate the mechanics. And I like the open world status. Like it's very, very much open world. It's like, here, have some adventures. Here's the storyline, but you don't have to follow it, which I love.
That's nice.
I love
Yeah,
that in
the
single
open
player
world type
games. Yeah.
play. Definitely. I'm actually going to kind of follow a lead with you. I had Witcher 3 on my list, but I had an alternative just in case you went there. And
Predictable.
Right, we think alike a lot of the times. Just saying, we really do. And so my number 3 is actually going to be very similar, but it's I want to say a little bit older than Witcher, and that's Dragon Age.
Yeah, see, I can't do
Dragon
squad
Age-
based. I can't
Yeah.
do squad based. That's one of the
It's-
mechanics that just kills it.
Right, and that's one of the things that kind of has for me too, but I know there's like a really cool political thing going on, and
yeah.
the story is really cool, and I
Story's
appreciate that because I
amazing.
mean that's something I love in general with games, and that's what keeps me playing a game. Like the
Mhm.
mechanics can be fine and fun,
I'll
but unless I get hooked in the first like 20 minutes of a
Yeah.
game, I tend to put it down,
I'll be
and that's
honest.
just the reality
Dragon
of
Age,
it.
the very first Dragon Age was probably one of the few ones that I played. I think I played nearly 3/4 of the game, and it was
Mhm.
because of the story. Like
Yeah.
that story was amazing. And actually, Infomage, Josh, he's a
Mhm.
huge Dragon Age. If you ever want to geek
Yeah.
out about Dragon Age, mention it to Josh, and he will just. I mean, he loves talking. Like, he's actually started. He does a lot of D&D stuff on tabletop down in his home, or where he lives now, and he has actually started finding artists to commission to do character portraits for his characters in the tarot style that Dragon Age kind of has.
Oh, nice.
So he
Yeah.
has like all these portraits of his characters that he play, like his main characters that he plays. He has commissioned a couple of them to be done in that tarot deck style, and they're really like, it's really cool. Like the story, the art, and everything about Dragon Age is really amazing. Literally, I can't stand the reliance on squad based stuff. It's Mass Effect is the same thing. I can't do it. My brain doesn't, like, for some reason my brain does not understand that process of allocation.
Right. I mean, I get it. It's just Mass Effect I had a hard time with towards, and I'm thinking the latest Mass Effect, and I've heard from people
Andromeda?
that it's
Mhm.
completely different than any other Mass Effect. So not to
Yes.
judge the theories based off of that.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I've heard, I mean, I've even heard mixed things on Andromeda. Like, I think, to kind of get into what we'll be talking about in the actual episode, but I think with that, part of the failure there wasn't on the developers as much as it was on the community overhyping stuff.
mhm.
Very, very similar to No Man's
yeah.
Sky. Like,
Or Anthem, or
Anthem, yeah.
any
Or I mean,
number of
any
games that
any
come
major
out.
AAA title, it runs the risk of overhype. Because I think Andromeda, like,
Absolutely.
it wasn't. I don't know. I've heard mixed. Like, now that it's been out for what, a year,
I've heard
2
there's still
years?
good
Mhm.
good story aspects to it, and that there's some really interesting interpersonal relationships that happen in the game world. It's just it never really resonated as far as the mechanics, because I did not understand what I was supposed to be doing. There wasn't a
Right.
whole lot of linear aspects to it, which is fine. Like that kind of gameplay is like Skyrim and Elder Scrolls and just any number of games anymore that are that first person or single person type gameplay. I just
Mhm.
never really got hooked into that as much as I have some other titles.
Well, and actually that kind of is a segue into my number 2, because I think that's also the interesting thing that we were kind of mentioning too, is the story, right? For
Right.
me, if the mechanics are so bad that they get in the way of me getting involved in the story, I can't, like, I'm like, I want to enjoy you. Like I want
Yeah.
to have fun, but you are getting in the way of yourself.
Yep.
But that's actually Horizon Zero Dawn is my number 2.
I love Horizon Zero Dawn.
And it's mostly because I really like the universe that Horizon Zero Dawn exists in. It seems like it's really kind of from what I've read, and I remember when we talked to, I think it was Potato that we had on when we were talking that for our extra lore. My understanding of what like that whole universe is doing, the game mechanics seem very similar to Assassin's Creed, which I absolutely love. I think like, I mean, literally the only reason I haven't played it is because I don't own a PlayStation.
So I have a funny, cute story about Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh no.
So I work at a shoe store now, and I work with a variety of peoples because we do a lot of more high end, not high end shoes, but high end service. So we do a lot of fitting. We talk about foot health and stuff like that. And there is a gentleman who has worked there for years. His name is Tom. He's probably in his 70s at this point, and he's never played video games in his entire life. But he picked up a PlayStation because he wanted to increase his dexterity. And the first game he chose to play was Horizon Zero Dawn. And for the last couple of weeks, for the entire month of January, essentially, and a little bit of December, because he got it back in December, he has been reporting to me every Saturday, because I only work with him on Saturdays, how he's doing. And he finished the game last weekend.
Nice.
So he's actually, for somebody who's never played the game at all, period.
Did he enjoy it?
Yeah,
I mean,
he
I'm
loves it.
assuming he did, but
yeah, he's getting ready to go into like the Iceborne section of it, and he's really like he's gained a new appreciation. He's always been like a sports fan, like a football fan, but he never understood the aspect of video games and anything like that. And it's been fun teaching him about the medium.
Yeah, the other one that he might appreciate, I don't know, I'm assuming it's on PlayStation. I am terrible at PlayStation titles. Tomb Raider, the new Tomb Raider series.
Yeah.
Oh god, the revamp of the Tomb Raider series has been, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say about the next game, because I know he's going to play Red Dead Redemption next. that is the next one that's coming
Is he
up.
playing the first one or the second one?
The second one. The one that just came out.
That's a Grand Theft Auto horse. Or Grand Theft Horse. Red Dead was one of the games that I got for like free back like when I can't remember how I got it, but I got it on the Xbox. And I just remember the only thing I remember from that game is, first off, it was just when I get into like the Grand Theft style games, I just immediately am like, oh, there's the main storyline. Well, there's a right degree turn away from that. I'm just gonna go down to something else.
And that's fine.
And and they completely embrace it in Red Dead. But there's a thing that like you can, I can't remember how you unlock it, but you can get a horse that literally has rainbows shooting out of its butt while it runs. God. And I got it, and I'm like, I swear to you, I probably spent like an hour just running around the map giggling because this horse is literally just
it's like Neon Cat or Scion Cat.
It's exactly my God. I think it's like Death. Like it's like the skeleton horse too. It's like it's just like, oh my God.
That's ridiculous but amazing.
I'm like,
you mentioned GTA 5.
Oh yeah. I haven't gotten I can't play GTA. Like
I like GTA 5. That was one of my first games once I got Xbox when I was teaching.
Is that
a couple years ago?
The most recent one, right?
Yes, supposedly they're getting ready to release a 6th one, but we'll see. They've just been doing updates to it for the last 10 years, it feels like. But
because they have that's the one that's online now.
Yes.
Yeah.
My number 2 is actually I would say semi-similar concept in some respects, or at least with some of the missions, and it's Watchdog. I like the idea of the hacker game.
Fun.
I've never played it, but I've
Watchdog
always
Watchdog is. So we were, I think the year that I got to go to E3 was the year that it was either Watchdog or Watchdog 2. I can't remember. but they were doing the demo. We actually got into the Ubisoft Ubi Lounge, and so we got to hang out with the developers while they were showing the demo. And it was like, oh my God, like that was one of the few things that I was like, because it was the same year that they were doing For Honor, so we got to watch the developer talk about the combat sequencing for For Honor, which was really cool too. But they were talking about like it's I want to say it's Watch Dogs 2, but it was like the whole thing that they were walking us through was one of the first levels, and he was explaining like all the mechanics of like how you can like the decision paths that you can take. And it was just like, I mean, he's like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do that, you can do this, you can hack this and make that happen. And it was just like, I'm like, Jesus.
Right? I miss that kind of game design. I think it's really neat to be able to have such a manipulative.
You should try out
aspect of
Deus Ex. Deus
Yeah,
Ex.
I've been told that.
It's exactly like that. And since you're on PlayStation, you could also do Detroit, New Human, or is it New Human?
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
That one is entirely, nearly entirely based around decisions.
Okay.
Which is really it's got some, and for Detroit there's some really really cool fan fiction actually, because everyone gets really attached to the character that they run, because you are put into so many like very serious decision points that you have to make. You actually like there's a large number of people who have gotten really attached to their character because they've gone through like traumatic events with them.
Interesting. I remember my very first PlayStation game was Beyond Two Souls, and I bought it specifically because of how pretty the game was. Like, not gonna lie, I bought a PlayStation to play Beyond Two Souls because of how beautiful the graphics were on it. It's just Detroit, whatever, the New
That
Human
was
or Beyond
Quantic,
Human.
right? Wasn't
I do
Quantic?
not remember I don't remember the developer. I wish I did. It was a really cool story too. Detroit Become Human. Thank you, Pens.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's the same developer that did. That's the same developer that did Heavy Rain and Detroit. Okay.
Yeah, just really pretty, well designed.
They
Kind
have
of
it. They have
creepy
it.
because they're just so close. I mean, it's just that it hits that point right before what is it called? The psychological point where it becomes too close to actually human, that it
Oh,
makes you
like
feel creepy.
it's I know what you're talking about,
Can't
but I just
remember.
blanked on it.
I did too.
Chat. Yes, those are both games. The founders of Quantic was David Cage. David Cage, and I think I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Guillaume de Fondemier, I believe is what it is. But Quantic Dream is the developer for both Beyond Two Souls and Detroit Become Human.
Nice. All right, Blue, what's your number one?
My number one, like I kind of mentioned this before we started recording, my number one is actually kind of a cheat because I refuse to let myself play any of these, but it's most of MMORPGs. The reason I refuse to let myself play them is because I know myself. I wouldn't talk to anybody because I'd get obsessed with them. Because my personality, once I find like something I like, we were kind of also kind of talking about this. Like I start when I focus in on something, pretty much everything stops for me outside of those things, which makes like what I do for my job really, it's a very good skill to have. But it's also dangerous because I can literally lose time if I'm working on something that I'm really focused on. And MMORPGs are dangerous for people like that because
is there a particular one?
The one that immediately comes to mind, of course, is World of Warcraft. I played the RTS version of Warcraft. I know that's like nothing like World of Warcraft. The other one that I tried, I did try, I think it's Knights of the Old Republic. I wasn't blown away by it. So I was able to kind of I dabbled in that one. The other ones that I would like to play, but I won't let myself, are the Elder Scrolls Online and
Oh God.
yeah,
I had
Elder
such a
Scrolls
hard
Online.
time with Elder Scrolls Online. Like, I like Elder Scrolls.
The story
I really
arcs that
do.
they are
But it was
telling from the Elder Scrolls Online is fascinating. Like the animation videos and the story arcs that they're telling are really cool. When I look at the gameplay, I'm like, I think again the mechanics would get in the way for me.
I
Um,
also feel like I'm dragged out of the immersion aspect of it
yes,
whenever I see other people in the same freaking area with me
yeah,
that are not part of
that's
my.
that's kind of
Mm-mm.
my problem with MMOs in general is because I mean I'm right there with you. The other one that I've always heard really high, respect for is EverQuest. I never got into it,
Okay.
but I know many people who like swear up and down on that game, uh, and who have had very good memories of it. So I mean, like it's just one of those things where it's like MMOs are one of those things that it's like the ivory tower for, not even ivory tower. It's like the thing that's like I'm like I really shouldn't touch that with a 50-foot pole, but I really want to.
It's your kryptonite.
Yeah, I'm like this is something that is really never gonna happen because if it does, I'm gonna get in lots of trouble.
Your wife is not gonna like
My
you.
wife will kill me.
Yeah. And luckily I started out as such a huge like MMO type player, but I've
Hmm.
moved and I've discovered that I enjoy the social interactions that you can get with the online type games. But there's still part of me who likes to push through a story by
You mean
myself.
for like Destiny, like first
Yeah,
person, like PvP esque, or well, not PvP, but like because I mean like MMOs are
cooperative.
online, but it's not as cooperative as like the Destiny's
I
such a
just don't.
hard thing like limit into a genre because I know technically a lot of people lump Destiny into an MMO
Right.
light, but yeah,
Which
no,
in some cases it really is, but at the same time, I can still go into a mission
by yourself.
and not see anybody and actually have the
Oh,
immersion of
okay,
reading the
yeah,
mission by itself.
yeah.
Whereas if I go into like Elder Scrolls Online, the model has completely shifted to the point where I don't get to I don't get to do that ever. There's nothing I don't think none of the missions that I ever played where I can actually just enjoy being in the world by itself because I like
Mm.
escapism. I
So it's
like playing.
because like Diablo 3 has that
Oh yeah,
functionality, but you can turn it off.
yeah,
Like you can play through Diablo 3 completely solo, or you can, I want to say, I know that you can join other of your friends because my brother and I do that. But I think you can actually turn it on where your world is open to other people too. But that's an
yeah.
entirely like you can toggle that on and off, which is actually why I Diablo is one of those games that's very dangerous for me because it's I'm like I'm gonna just go hack and slash it, and I'm like, oh look, 4 hours have gone by.
Diablo is one of those weird games that my sister has actually played because my sister's not
Hmm.
necessarily a gamer. So I don't know, it's really
It's
weird because
it's got a very low entry bar. It's
yeah,
actually one of the reasons. It's actually why I like Path of Exile. Uh, the reason I don't play Path of Exile anymore is because I'm not a fan of the seasonal resets, which is Diablo 3's kind of gone that way too. Uh,
mhm.
but like I love Path of Exile's story. I love it. Love Path of Exile's story. It's really cool. Um, but yeah, I got done with the Path of Exile and I was like, all right, let's do this. And then the next season rolled up and they're like, you get to start over. And I'm like, I get to what now?
Yeah,
I don't get to play the whole same story. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I enjoyed that, but I mean, it's a free to play game, so it's not.
true.
I mean, I got well for the $0 that I paid for it. I got plenty of entertainment for it. But
My number one is going to kind of be one of those things that I don't know. I kind of want to play it, but I also don't think I ever will. and I know that's not necessarily the topic that we're doing, but
that's pretty much what
it
my
k-
number ones are.
yeah, it's one of those things. It's a gaming franchise that is well known. It's always been around. It's one of those things like everybody should play it because there's so many references back to it.
I'm trying to
And
guess which one
that's
you're going with.
it. Well, it's I blame Beard if that gives you any hint. It's not near. It's not near Automata, although that
Well,
one
yeah,
almost made my
you would
list.
you would lose your mind if you played. Yeah. Near sucks up your brain and soul as well as your
But it's
time.
yeah, it's Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Any of the Final Fantasies. And it's mainly because when Beard talked about the story of it, or when we talked about the story of it, it was just such a massively
Mhm.
complicated thing that it's I'm interested enough to actually put up with it. And that's
Mhm.
kind of a weird thing to say, but I don't know if I actually will because I know there's so many games now. And I know everyone's just like, just play 7. You're fine with 7,
I
right?
hated 7.
That's what they're remaking.
Oh, I know. Yeah. No. Again, going back to I don't like squad games. Like,
Yeah.
and Final Fantasy, that's like one of the core components to it. That's actually why I liked Final Fantasy Tactics, was
Okay.
because Tactics was a true it was a true turn based like art. It was like a simple version of an RTS because you had units, but it was like army tactics. Like
Right.
it wasn't like
Like
your real time. You have 4 people and
like
you have to keep
Exxon.
spells and blah blah. And I'm like, that's my brain. Like I play games to shut my brain down. I don't play games to enhance brain activity, which is weird to say sometimes. But like I like being able to focus in and be like, I know that this is going to do this and this and this. Um, and Final Fantasy Tactics, like give Final Fantasy Tactics a try if you have time. You can get them on mobile devices now. It's actually I think I have mine on Tactics Advanced is on Game Boy Advance, so I know I'm sure they have an emulator out there for it.
I
But
never tried any of the Game Boy games.
I really enjoyed Final Fantasy Tactics, and I'm one of the very, I guess, few people that I can't stand Final Fantasy games because of the mechanics, not because of the story. The story is very fascinating. It's a little cliche in some areas, but the mechanics just constantly got in the way of me enjoying what was going on.
Yeah. All
But the
right.
story for
So
Tactics is, oh, that story is simply amazing.
what's on your also rand list?
Destiny.
Yeah. I figured that was going to
Destiny
show up just
2.
as a kind of
Yeah, Destiny 2 is
funny
one of those games
reality.
that I really would like to play sometime. I've heard that it's really good. Um,
You think, okay, those of you listening, you think he's joking,
I haven't.
but
I don't think I've turned my Xbox on in like 3 weeks.
there's also a deal that Blue and I made last year around this
Oh
time
yeah.
that I would be the one to focus on the gameplay and he would be the one to
I'm
focus
like,
on the
I don't
tech
have
space.
time.
Yeah. So, yeah,
Well,
I
and
get it.
I know a lot of people have weighed in on that, but I mean, like the whole thing that Destiny's doing with the season and the whole like FOMO. I'm like,
Mhm.
to me, like I am arguably more and more secure in my ability to admit that I'm a very casual gamer. So like that that model, just to me, it's like, okay, like I'll get on and I'll play the campaign that they release, but like I'm like, eh. And
Yeah,
I'm also terrible because I never paid attention to meta. Like I have the loadout that I've had since D2 launched,
and
really,
it's
and I
changed so drastically recently. Like there's been a lot of shifts in the meta.
right,
They
right.
upped sidearms, they've done a lot of different things with
But I mean,
fusion
like I still
rifles
have my Nameless
recently.
Midnight.
Yeah.
Like I
And
still
it's
run with
still
my
viable.
original.
Scouts
Oh
are
yeah, yeah. But I mean, but like even when they weren't viable, I was the one that was still because I just like I that's just I like I said, I don't like playing games that I have to constantly be like, all right, what's this. I'm like, I don't play that way. I play games to just like relax and to have just have fun, which is why I do a lot of like solo playthroughs or solo
Right.
games and stuff like that. And like I've never been a big, like, I can hold my own in PvP, but I've never been like a huge PvP person. So
Mm-hmm.
like it's like, okay, all right, cool, whatever.
You still do circles around me in Halo.
Well, that and so I still attribute that to the fact that Halo was the game that I pretty much grew up playing. Like the mentality that you have, like the mentality you have to have with Halo as far as like knowledge of maps and knowledge of mechanics of movement and stuff is
Mhm.
completely different than with, I mean, it's like any other game. It's completely different from every other thing out there. And so like, growing up playing Halo, everyone who I grew up with who played Halo has the same like understanding of like, hey, you can do this or this or that. And
Right.
yeah, and Pins is talking about like the weapons don't really matter the same way that they do in Destiny, because the damage output, like if I have a BR or a battle rifle and a person opposed me has a battle rifle, even though they might look different because they have different skins, the real in a PvP situation, they're going to be the same. Like it's
Right,
literally
because it's
map
that
knowledge and hit.
competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the competitive style of gameplay.
Yeah,
Uh,
whereas with Destiny, they have this really weird synergy between PvE and PvP, and they don't segregate the balancing. So it's like you have different iterations in the same thing, and so there's like that's where the meta is so much more important in Destiny.
Right.
And they also
And
don't have
that's
like
why
go for it.
I was like, that's why Destiny probably will never have an esports following.
No, I mean it's
It,
the blessing and the curse.
yeah,
Your PvP is always going to be interesting, but it's also always going to be, air quotes, I say this gently, broken. Because there's always going to be some combination that outplays other combinations.
do you remember back at the beginning of D2 how PvP was at all? Did you ever play PvP
I
back
didn't.
then?
I mean, like, yes, but I don't. I mean, I don't remember it being like super different than anything else
So,
for Destiny. Like
beginning of
Destiny PvP has
D2,
always been kind of like a, all right, let's get this over
yeah,
with.
I mean, that's rough.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
why Gambit was so bad for me, was because I was like, what the hell is going on?
You would think
I've
Gambit would be great for you.
I've got better. I've gotten better. Like I've
Okay,
got
good.
Gambit. I actually like. I think it was you and Ninja. Ninja hates you. When I
Mhm.
was with what was that, GuardianCon last year, when you guys were
Jamie.
talking and you
Mhm.
guys talked me and they're like, no, do this, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm like,
Yeah.
and then as soon as I started doing that, I was like, oh, okay, this is like, it actually kind of clicked.
Yeah. The Okay, so back in the beginning of D2, they actually really balanced out the weapons. It's like there was no major outliers. Everything was really equal and people hated it. They hated it. And for as much complaining and whining that you hear people do about the metas and about the shifts, some of the best times that people have had in the game is abusing something like
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And
the what was
that's the thing, is like, that's
the
the
blade
double edged
controls.
sword, right?
Right, but that's why
Mm-hmm.
Destiny is I mean, I hate to call it a casual shooter game, but in some
Oh
respects it
no,
is
yeah, I would.
compared to like Halo or COD where everything's regulated highly, or
Well,
even
and
Overwatch.
yeah, well, and the funny thing is like in Halo, like the reason why I don't get like super salty about Destiny PvP is because if you go over to Halo, you have the crazy shenanigan playlist. Like you have Griffball, you have Rockin' Rails, you have Super Fiesta.
Right.
Like, I mean, and those are some of the funniest places to play. Like, I mean, just like, and it's all unbalanced. Like, it's just everything is like, Griffball is absolutely bonkers. I know one person who's played a game of gift ball that didn't die, and we still don't really understand how he did it. We still think he cheated, but we're not really sure about that. But but then the thing is also you have like SWAT, you have, the 3v3 or the 2v2, like the very regulated ones. So you have like that balance going on. So you have both of them. Whereas in Destiny, it's kind of like, I think so many people are so used to, well, and the other thing is like when you have curated roles, people have significantly more investment, it seems like, in their items. So like the air quote god roll, I don't even know what Luna's Howl or what's the other one? Better, is it Better Devils or Duke? Is it I can't, whatever, the other like really big hand cannon that was there for a while.
Duke was there.
Yeah,
Better
Duke.
Devils was there.
I think
Spare
the Duke
Rations
was-
is still there.
Spare Rations is well, anyway, but
It's
like,
the Vanguard
the
one.
when you have those air quote god roll ones, see, like in Halo, that was never a situation because you don't have rolls on weapons. Like you pick
Right.
up a gun and that's the gun. Whereas like in Destiny, you can spend hours on hours basically creating these guns through the RNG process, and then to go into a PvP match and be like, yeah, that's the same as the other one that this guy spent 30 seconds on. I can see the frustration there, but the catch 22 is exactly kind of what you're saying, is like, if you're gonna want your gun to be better than the gun that has the same name, it's gonna be broken. Like by the end of itself, it's gonna be broken.
Right. I don't know. It's just interesting I like the Destiny model. I know I really would love to have an esports thing, but I know it's not going to happen in this game. I love watching Overwatch esports. I enjoy watching Halo esports. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like COD for some reason. I just never got into that
Uh,
scene, but
yeah, I don't blame you.
that could be because of a variety of reasons, namely the fact that very first time I was on there, I had people cursing at me,
Oh, yeah.
and
The toxicity
it's
in that
just
is just
yeah,
ridiculous.
it was weird. It was my brother's account because I had never played it before. I'd never played a shooter, and my brother handed me the controller. And I was like, okay, and then I was like, "Here, take that back." So,
Sorry, Pins. Super Fiesta, where you go having an
yeah,
answer and Norfang to a plasma pistol.
God, that's stupid. You never learn a gun. Like, you never have a gun long
In
enough
other
to
news,
learn what
the
it
best way
does.
to trigger
I
green.
hate. Oh my god, I freaking hate that game type. And it's what you always want to play when we play together. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna do also rants for me before I get way too triggered about that. BioShocks. I started playing
Yes.
BioShock Infinite. BioShock is free to play right now on PlayStation.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah,
Yes,
dude.
and it's the whole collection, so you can get all the games with
You
that,
have
which
to
is
play at
nice.
least the first one.
I
Like
someday. I
it
have
might
it.
be. I haven't played it in a long time, so it might be clunky. But the story for the first one is just it's so good. The others are good, but man, the first BioShock is still, out of that entire series, is my favorite one. Like, it
Yeah.
really is, just because it was such a cool game.
I got really frustrated with Infinite, which is the one BioShock game I have played. That it
That's
was
the most recent one, right? The one up in the
that was
sky.
that's the cloud,
Yeah.
the kind of the
Mhm.
steampunk version. I got really frustrated with it just because of a variety of reasons. It was kind of that mixture of a shooter as well as this adventure game, and I hadn't had any real experience with that kind of thing. But you still had to modify all your stuff at the same time. So it was just I just didn't give it too much time to really practice it, I guess, rather than anything else. Beyond that, The Last of Us I'd like to play someday, just because I know that story is really intense, and again, it's a really pretty game.
Yes. I've watched the cutscenes for that one. That's got
And then,
some feelings.
oh yeah, and Last of Us 2 is coming out soon. Or if it's not already out, I know it's one of those ones that are coming really, really close. Um, funny one. I had a friend who had a PSP when I was in college, and he let me borrow it a few times, and the game he had on it was called Patapon, which is the stupidest little game where it's a rhythm-based game where you have to push buttons to the beat in certain combinations, and your little troops will go off and fight other Patapons, and you get little things, and it's like, and it's the dumbest thing ever, but it's so
I'm
addicting.
looking this up.
It's so dumb, but it's so funny. Yeah, Patapon.
Patapon. Oh my gosh. Okay, Patapon. Patapon
then-
4.
Yeah, Patapon 2 is the one that you can get on PlayStation right now.
This looks
It's
hilarious.
it's fun. It's actually it's similar to another one of my games that I want to play is Beat Saber. I don't have a VR system,
yeah.
and Beat Saber looks like a ton of fun. I had on Xbox.
What do
I
you
had
mean?
the Kinect.
We play it every time we go into the Infinite Forest.
I hate you. God, now I can't get that out of my head. You're a jerk. But yeah, Chocolate Shark in chat is talking about having it on her PSP. It's a great little game. It's addicting. It's a nice little time killer.
The graphics look pretty funny, or not fun, like
Yeah.
they look entertaining, like it's like really
Mhm.
colorful.
Yeah, it's kid safe, it's kid friendly. It's one of those games that is just a rhythm-based game, kind of like how Guitar Hero used to be, or Rock
Mhm.
Band and stuff like that, but it's very simplified, which is a lot of fun to just kind of chip away at. Then I mentioned Beat Saber, Patapon. The one that I'm looking forward to coming out, though, is a game that I kind of stumbled across while digging through PlayStation. It's called Dreams. And this is literally a platform for creation, is what it is. And it's a let me see who it's by. Media Molecule, creators of Little Big Planet and Tearaway.
Mhm.
So they made this game platform that allows you to do composition like you did like in a Mario Paint, if you remember way back on Super Nintendo.
Okay.
You can do compositions, you can create your own games on it. You can draw, you can sculpt, you can paint, you can do all sorts of different things in this game because it's literally just a sandbox game. There's no
Yeah,
you
this
can share
reminds me
it.
of Project Spark on
Yeah.
Xbox.
It's very similar to that, but it's really kind of neat looking as far as like the trailer that they've given and the concept. So I'm really looking forward to having something that gives me the chance to just have a forge essentially and play
Mhm.
around in the VR setting or in the video game setting. Did you have
Yeah,
any others on your also Rans?
I mean, there's tons of games.
Yeah, there are.
There's like there's a few indie, like Greedfall. I want to, like, I don't know, like the thing that my biggest thing is, like, you know, again, time and
Mhm.
my air quote sensitivity there towards mechanics. Like, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I just want to know the story in the games. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
I really want to know what's going on in this world. Like, I just want to know the world building aspects. I don't really care about the challenge. Like, I'm like, whatever. Like, I just tell me more about this and tell me more about that. You know, like Plague Tales. I think it's Plague Tales Innocence. Looks fascinating. Also looks aggravating as hell because
Okay.
it's very it's, I'm not going to say it's on the level of Dark Souls, but it seems like it's very like that type of Dark Souls
Punishing?
light. If you mess up, you basically have to start over.
Ooh.
Like, and but it's also, it's the story basically of like two siblings who have to survive the Black Death, and like they're trying to, like, you're trying to get away from the rats, and you know, it's a fascinating looking game. And I don't know how much of a story, like there's the Cthulhu game that came out I think last year that looks really, really interesting. I mean, actually, that being said, Dark Souls has a fascinating lore. The problem with Dark Souls lore is you have to actually play the game to get to it. Like, there's nothing outside of the game other than what's been discovered in the game. But yeah, so I mean, like, that's where I am now. It's like just give me the game world. Like I just want to be able to explore the game world. I want to, just look at that. So, which is probably why I do a good job on, or why I fit so well with the podcast. Because
I mean, you would think we like stories.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something.
Speaking of that,
Novel. Yeah. Should we start wrapping up a little bit so we can move on to
so
some
we
of the
can
other
talk
things?
about the other stuff?
The other stuff that we're going to talk about that's not actually games, like stories we're talking about tonight that are other things, because we're doing the first week of the month.
Mm-hmm. Food?
Okay.
What?
We could talk about All right. Thank you guys, as always, for joining us. It's a lot of fun to do these kind of things. So just if you ever have any feedback about these episodes, or if you enjoy them, if you don't enjoy them, things you like, dislike, whatever, if you want to just say hi, hit us up in Discord, Twitter, just, you can find us. We're out there. We're hanging around a little bit. I'm maybe a little bit more on Twitter than Blue is, but, just hit us up. And, I guess we have the outro of Everybody Loves a List. Yeah! Animated. I just got Python.
What?
It's a gun.
Oh, it's also a scripting language, so that's why I was like, what?
No.
What?
Fuck.
What are you doing?
I do not want to mess with Python. I have looked at Python. No, thank you. Pass.
I was really confused. I was like, what?
Pass. No, it's the Gambit shotgun. This season.
Oh.
And it takes fucking forever to get, because you have to get up close shotgun kills. And you basically have to be on top of you don't have to do guardian kills, you can do combatants.
Oh god, that was
the ammo economy is terrible.
I finished that quest and I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, go away. I don't want to talk to any of you again.
Cave. I didn't know Kelly was listening. I do not apologize. I will give her nightmares.
Oh man. Where is it? There it is. That's what I was looking for.
Let's see.
Oh.
Now I just need to do a couple more Nightfalls, and then I will have Duty Bound, I think is the name of the quest, finished, which means I will have all except for one thing.
I got my Crucible emblem thing done.
Nice.
So I got the little rawr emblem.
The little rar emblem?
That's what I refer to it as. I love that I collect the emblems and then I immediately just delete them. I'm like, I have Lore Scholar. I'm not ever changing this.
Yeah, I miss my Lore Scholar. I have the LGBT one now.
Yeah. I put the Australian one on my Warlock.
Nice.
But yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Java can just go.
I like how they say Java's a good one to start with, even though it's everybody's least favorite to do.
Well, the problem with Java is
We're gonna be here for a while.
Did they lie?
It's the one that I started learning pens. Like was
it
like,
JavaScript? Was it JSP? Yeah. Was it Java? Like, because there's tons of different iterations of it, and that's the problem. Is like,
let me tell you, I got through like maybe 1 week's worth of coding practice, so it was very, very basic. Oh my god, that's terrible. Accurate but terrible. Learn Java 8.
You aren't wrong.
Oh my goodness.
Alright. Alright, so let me get this.
This one's gonna be a weird one. Just saying.
This is going to be a really just kind of literally just chatting one.
I'm fine with that.
Oh, so I put a picture out, but I got my copies of Jane McGonigal's books.
Nice.
Reality is Broken and
I
Super
saw
Better.
that.
Oh my god, I've already read the first intro or I've read the intro to Reality is Broken. It's amazing.
Nice.
So, but it's actually pertinent to the topic too, because she's talking about the intro is talking about like it was back in. She wrote that one back in 2011, and she has all the stats from the ESA about like the different percentages of breakout of how many people actually play games. It's like wow, like and that was 2011. So I mean, yeah, I think I put some of the stats from 2018 in the show notes.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling when you start thinking about the volume of what is being spent on this stuff.
Right. I mean, it surpassed the amount of, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, in the episode, but it surpassed the amount of money used to create movies anymore.
Oh,
The
yeah.
video game industry is way beyond what the movie industry does, which is amusing because video games are still seen as a
that's actually what her entire introduction is about, is this stigma that's attached to gamers. Like it's a really interesting thing because she's using the stats and she's like, so the reality doesn't match up with everyone's like view of video games as a waste of time. She's like, no, it's just like just facts right here. That's not the case. Like it's really interesting.
I had an interesting conversation with people at my work who are not gamers, who are very against gaming, who are very it's just interesting. You get all kinds. You get all
Right,
kinds of
yeah.
people.
Yeah.
There are people out there who have never played a video game and who never want to play a video game because they think it's childish because they just don't know.
Right, and I think and again, I might open up the book and read part of the intro when we get into the episode, because she actually has a paragraph talking about that exact attitude and how it's not that they're wrong, it's that they don't understand what it means. And actually if they would like talk about it, it would be beneficial, because that skepticism is actually really helpful. It's just it's being like different things toward it. But yeah, anyways, let's get into it, because I think that will be something that we probably will have a conversation about. Let me update this real quick. All right. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on February 7th, 2020 over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episode is going to be focused around exploring game genres, and this particular episode is, this week is going to be a bit of a different week. We have, excuse me, man, we have a episode in the back burner that we're going to push out on Monday. By the time you hear this, you'll already figure this out. I just realized that. Anyways,
I think it's pretty funny that you started it anyway.
I'm like
in live chat.
For those of us in live chat, bleh. I'm just going to keep this in because I don't even care.
Fine.
But
bloopers are fine.
We're gonna have a bit of a different mix up this week. So this is the only episode that we're gonna actually record on stream. The other episode we have recorded prior to that, and I really encourage anyone who's in live strat to go ahead and be sure to download that one, because that one's gonna be talking about the Destiny community artist group with Salty Cat Plays, and it was a really fun conversation. But before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the pigeon-feeding green-eyed music lover.
Is that...
It's an emote.
Is that before or after you got your Python?
About the same time, actually. I
Okay.
hit
Alright, cool.
level 99 at the same time as finishing Python. It was in the same match of
So
Gambit, so
you're gonna lure the pigeons in and feed them to the python. Got it.
sure. I
'Cause, I mean,
have
it's
I
pigeons.
still have
That's
my
what you use
Dustrock
pigeons
blues
for.
on instead, but it's fine. But that's not what you use pigeons for.
That's
You
totally
use them
whatever.
as to send you messages about top 3. Another thing you'll learn about on Wednesday when you in fact actually get that download. Uh,
Well, so that being said, this one, I think this is going to be probably very common for the first weeks. Is we're really just trying to probably use these as casual. I mean, we're starting to call them Let's Chats. That's going to be kind of the formal name that we're taking with this mini series or this sub series. I don't know what you want to call it, but so I don't, you know what? I don't even know if
we
I'm
don't
going to
even
do
have
housekeeping notes. Like, I don't even
Yeah.
know if we need to do that. Like I had said, we're going to be talking about different game genres, game designs, and really what that kind of goes in line with our top 3 this week. The top 3, we talked about games that we haven't played. My thought process for this particular episode was actually exploring the games that we have played and like actually what is something that we want to, like, what we look for in games. Like, I have a very strong conviction, or I have a very strong degree of, I know what type of game I like playing, and I kind of, again, because I have such a limited time, I gravitate towards that game type pretty strongly. And I'm sure I know our mod team has had similar. We've had conversations with. I've had conversations with pretty much everyone that I've had a conversation with the gaming about. This has come up. It's like, what do you like playing?
Mhm.
What do you look for in a game? Is it a fighting game? Is it an action game? And real quick, kind of to standardize the conversation, to kind of put some terms out there. When I talk about genres, I am referring to pretty much the industry standards, and so that definition, just to be clear, is it's the genre for video games is defined by the set of gameplay challenges, and it's actually classified independently of the game's setting or game world content. So that being said, the genre of various games is very often it overlaps with other genres. And the other thing that is important is that as with all cases of genre classifications, the matter of a specific game's genre is often open to subjective interpretation, which translates into individual games will often belong to multiple genres at once. Now, you also have what's referred to as subgenres, which that starts getting very granular very quickly. So I'm not really going to go down that rabbit hole. So predominantly the following genres are kind of the recognized, air quote there, recognized genres in the gaming world. You have action, adventure, fighting, platform, puzzle, racing, role-playing, shooter, simulation, sports, strategy, and then miscellaneous. An interesting one that actually has taken off really recently is what's called idle or incremental gaming. That's basically Trimps, which is fascinatingly addicting. So there's not a lot of percentage, or there's not a lot of stats on idle and incremental gaming because it's a fairly
Wait,
recent development.
is that the one where you basically set it to do
Yes, so
whatever
it
and you
is
just walk away?
pretty much. So idle incremental gaming is like this weird niche game type that it's like AFK Arena is Wicked's talking about that. So what you'll often, it's like Idle Tycoon, a lot of mobile games will have this, but it's
Where
basically
the game continues when you're not there, you just set
yeah,
it up
yeah.
and walk away.
And so what you'll do is you'll have like some involvement in the beginning. You'll set it up and you're like, I want to create a widget, and like eventually you get to a point where you can upgrade your widget maker to automatically create widgets. And then it's basically like, it's just, oh my gosh, it sounds really dumb, but at the same time, it like satisfies that just really base need to watch numbers go up. Like Trimps
Yeah.
especially. Trimps is the dumbest thing in the world, but I've not gonna lie, I played that game for like months. And the thing is it takes like no time. Like it's literally you just like, check on it when you walk by and you're done. So it's got like it's really nice for those of us who don't have time to sit there and play games, but you also still get the satisfaction of like, oh hey, my number's in the billions now. If they start making up numbers because you get to like quintillions and quadrazillions and quadrubajillions.
Oh, good lord.
It's oh my god. So so I had to include it in there. But the interesting thing to go back, so like I found this fascinating, but like in 2019, it's currently estimated that over 80% of digital spending in 2019 was for free to play games.
That does not surprise me in the least bit.
No, I mean
With-
like when I sat there for a second and thought about it, it's not a huge, like I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But I mean, that's of total digital
Right.
spending.
I mean, you have to think about how I'm trying to remember where in Europe, was it England that had the law passed about loot boxes?
Well, yeah, because
How it's considered gambling?
EU and
EU
China.
did it.
China's doing
Yes.
it too.
I mean, gaming has become such a huge financial monster that countries don't know how to handle what's actually going on anymore,
Right.
which is interesting.
Well, and
And-
then okay, go for it.
No, you go for it.
I was gonna say, for 2018, the percentage for genre breakdown, action was 29% of the sales in 2018 for games was action genres. Shooters was actually only 13%, which I love how and action is a very broad thing. I mean, shooter is a pretty broad thing too, but I mean, shooter and sports games were tied for the percentage of sales, and action
Which
was like
doesn't surprise me.
not at all. Role playing was just below at 12%, but shooter and sports were 13%.
I'm
Now
curious if
the
you did the
differences-
breakdown of
yeah.
the games and what falls under what, or if they fall under similar things. Like Destiny would fall under shooter, it would fall under adventure, it'd fall under action. Although it may not fall under adventure depending on their definition. It's just
Right.
the industry standards are really loose in some ways.
And like I said, they're all subjective. So this is, I think I want to say this wasn't Game Informer, but it was another one of the bigger ones. But yeah, I mean, like it's just like to me looking at the breakdown of the digital, and actually now that I'm saying this, back when Crucible Radio was still Crucible, I think they're at Everyone now is their podcast name now. But anyways, they did an episode, Birds had done an episode on following the money of gaming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's seriously one of the best episodes that I've listened to that talks about the business side from a very unbiased perspective. He just basically lays out like this is how business is applied here.
Right. How you
and
run a
oh my
business
gosh,
in gaming.
It's very eye-opening. If you have not listened to it, let me know. I will try to find. I don't think we're going to do show notes, but if you want to listen to that, just ping me on Discord or on Twitter, and I will get it to you because it's seriously it's one of the best episodes that I've listened to talking about business in gaming. Goldman Sachs has an entire sub podcast that's dedicated to like different investments, and there's a large percentage of those episodes that talks about gaming because
you
it's
think about
such
major.
it's just
It's a powerhouse now, and you think about major publications. Forbes has its own gaming. Like they have their own reporters for gaming, just not even just Destiny, but like other games too. It's a major thing. I know somebody who that was their dream, was to be a video game reporter, and now he travels across the country. And that's what he does. That is his gig. And it confuses the snot out of his parents, who I actually know a lot better than him, which is hilarious to me. But
what do you do for life? I play video games and talk about them. What do you want from me?
But look at our industry that we're in so many ways, and I say us as in content creators.
Hmm.
The idea of Twitch is not that old in the grand scheme of things. Like, it's only what, maybe 8 to 10 years old at this point.
Yeah.
It's been out as long as Destiny has, and a few years before that. And then you have other streaming platforms like Mixer and whatnot, where they're making multi-million deals with content creators to switch platforms.
Yeah. It
I mean,
says Twitch launched in 2011, and at launch, it had close to 3.2 million unique visitors per month. And by 2012, the site grew to 20 million per month.
which is like, that's 9 years. 9 years. And now, I mean, we had Ninja move over. That was a huge, big
Oh, to
thing
Mixer,
as
yeah.
far as, yeah, I mean, that was a multi-million-dollar deal. And then recently, Overwatch League, which started out
Hmm.
on Twitch, which is for people who were doing just organizing their own little thing on Twitch. They have a deal with Bungie, or not Bungie, Blizzard, and they just switched over to YouTube permanently. They did a deal with YouTube. They haven't released the numbers on it, but they're exclusively on YouTube now. So it's the fact that major deals like this, where it feels like esports has taken off way more because of the development of the Twitch platform type thing, where you have the live streams and actually can see them up close instead of having to go to like a convention center. It's pretty crazy once you think about it. And so the development of games in general has shifted, I feel, from a very at home solo experience to a cooperative shared experience. Even if it may not be a cooperative game, you still oftentimes are in a party with somebody else, or you need aspects of the game to be completed with somebody else.
Right. Well, and I mean, I
They've s-
think that's a good, good kind of jump too, is to like look at the evolution of games. It's yeah. Like I mean, like, so like as games have changed, though, I've personally found that my interest in like specific game types or game genres, if you want to go that way, like, you know, what I look for in a game is has not really changed significantly.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm going to use that kind of as a springboard. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at games, like, what what aspect do you primarily pay attention to within the genres or the design? Like, what's something that like stands out in your decision of like, not necessarily am I going to try this, but like once you have tried it, like what makes you stick around with that game?
It's changed over the years, I'll tell you that. There is a that satisfaction of the difficulty level to reward level that I really get drawn into. Destiny with that looter shooter type thing. Borderlands was a huge one for me. I played a ton of Borderlands 1 and 2, but I don't know, there's the accomplishment factor, or it's a challenge that is just out of reach rather than being brutal out of reach. Like, Dark Souls did not jive with me. I tried it. I played maybe 2 or 3 hours of it and just got so stinking frustrated that I was like, "This isn't fun. This is not my game. This is not my kinda game. I don't care." So, I like looter shooters that give you that incremental accomplishment feeling, and starting out, I was way more into solo play, where it wasn't necessarily a shooter game. It could be like Elder Scrolls and Oblivion, where I had to figure out a way to beat the mechanics of the game somehow. Whether it was creating magic rings or whatever to basically cheat my way through. Because, I don't know. What I look for now, the start of it, when I'm looking on shelves, artwork, then story. If I'm pulled into the game from the story perspective right away, that helps a ton. If it's a story that I don't care about, if it's not relatable or just too far out there, I just don't want to. I don't know, what about you?
So I'm an adamant solo player. Um, like I'm the crotchety old person who just doesn't want to deal with people. Like, it's so funny. It cracks
That
me
is
up sometimes.
accurate on
I mean,
so many
like
levels.
it's just it really is. Like I love role playing games. Like I love
Mhm.
RPGs. I love like you know I'm a huge fan of like No Man's Sky. Which is literally just it's open world. It's just you can get lost or you can not get lost. You can do it's really just it's really just an escape. Um, like I'm also a big fan of like puzzle games.
Yeah, God of
Like
War.
yeah, God of War, but I mean like even simpler ones like Mahjong. Like I
Yeah,
love like mobile
those are great.
mobile Mahjong
Hmm.
games. I'm a sucker for them. Like I'll
Or
download
number
them.
games.
Number game like Sudoku, yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, I just recently discovered that Microsoft has their Solitaire suite on mobile apps, so that's been dangerous because that ties into my Xbox account. So I'm still getting achievement points
Oh
for
my gosh.
Xbox Live, but I'm not playing on my Xbox. It cracked me up. I was like, when I found that out the other day, I was like, what? Like,
Do you
haha.
remember it was on Windows. It was the pinball game.
Yes, we were talking
I
about this the
played
other
the
day.
snot out of that game.
The
Like
one that
that game
was the one that was hidden
amazing.
in the Office suite.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that was a great one. And you talk about like just watching numbers go up,
Oh
that
God. Yeah.
desire to see. That
We
was a
were
game that's all that was.
no joke. We were actually talking about that at the office the other day because I was doing something. I'm like the unofficial beta tester for some of our like more random programs, mostly because
Okay.
I'm really good at breaking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, yeah,
That
if you stress
also
it,
doesn't
like,
surprise.
yeah. Well, I'm the person that's like, what happens if you click this button? We don't know. Okay, click. I'm like,
Why not?
touch, touch. But I was talking to him and I'm like, oh, do you still have pinball in here? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, the pinball game in Word, like the thing, and it's just they're like, no, that does not exist anymore. I was like, oh, that
That
makes
was
me
an
sad.
amazing
I
game.
was like, it was the best way to sneak a game in ever.
Yeah.
I think it was
It
Windows
actually got me
XP.
interested
Windows
in
XP
playing
was that.
normal pinball. Like there's actually a barcade in town and it has
Oh,
pinball.
nice.
It's amazing. And you pay by the ounce, not
Oh,
to be on a total. Yeah.
what?
So you get a wristband when you first come in. You give them a credit card, which is like your tab essentially. You get a wristband, and from there you can go and fill up your own glass with whatever adult beverage you would like, and then go use the same wristband because you have to use the wristband to charge your account to play the games. You don't have to use quarters. So
Hmm.
it's so nice.
That's that's both very nice and very dangerous.
It's actually not that bad. Like any time I've been in there a few times and I've spent maybe a grand total of $12 per time, partially because I'm not a huge drinker and the
Mm,
games are still quarter 50-cent games depending on the machine.
that's not terrible. Yeah, that's
So, yeah, it's actually a really nice little afternoon event, but yeah, so
so. Yeah, I mean, like
development of games.
my yeah my like my interest is really it's kind of along. I mean, not a surprise. It's along the same lines as yours. But I like being able to really get immersed in the game world and like whether that is in like with Destiny, it's like researching the actual story, which is why like to be honest with Destiny, playing the game is not actually my draw. My draw is understanding what's going on in it. Like I'm a huge sucker, and this is probably stems back from my extended time spent with like tabletop RPGs and helping DM those worlds. Um, I love reading and learning about the world and the logic of the different worlds and how things work, and you know the world building aspects of those and the stories within the world building. Um, that being said, also like with No Man's Sky, you know, part of the draw there is like it's so immensely immersive. Like I can literally just get sucked in because you can play whatever you want, and it's so connected to like what you can do in real life, where it's like I want to go over here, and you know, with open worlds, that's one of the reasons I love Skyrim and Oblivion. Because it's like, okay, this is the thing that you should be doing, and, you know, go do this. But if you don't want to do it right now, you're not going to get punished. Like, you can go unlock the entire map and then come back and do that. Like, you know, it's like, whatever, just except for I glitched it out. But, you know, whatever. But with, like, No Man's Sky, it's very similar. It's like, you know, hey, go explore the world. You don't have to do anything, you know, you have to do like a couple minor like mining stuff to make sure that you have your survival. But other than that, there's like, and with the updates, especially that have come out recently, there is actually a story that's being presented to you, but you're also not bound to it. I really like open world first person games. That's my, I don't know if I would call it kryptonite. But that's where I will lose myself in.
It's your draw.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
What about the opposite?
What are the things that I dislike in a game?
What's a deterrent to you? Like
God.
a specific, like is it, like for me, it's mechanics.
Oh my God. So I actually am a huge fan of the Assassin's Creed series, but I absolutely fell off when Syndicate came out because I want to cuss on this one. That's how mad I was. Just it was not good. It was not fun.
You don't need people with faces to talk.
Oh my God. It's not even that. Like I could not get anywhere I wanted to go because things kept glitching out on me. It was just such a poorly
okay.
It wasn't a poorly designed game. It was just a poorly executed code because it was too spaghetti code at that point. Like I don't know what ended up happening in the coding department and what broke it, but it was just too hard to reconcile. It pulled the immersion out completely. And that was one of the things I've been talking about recently online on Twitter is just I want to be immersed in the game. I want to feel that power play type thing. You want to be able to say that you are the strong person in the game or whatnot, or overcome these obstacles because you may not be able to do it in real life, but you have the chance to do it in a video game. And if the game doesn't run well, it just pulls you out of it. It's not fun. Anyway, what about you? What's your kind of deal breaker for a game?
I have a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like squad based. We kind of talked about that in top 3. I'm not a huge fan of squad based because again, I like the immersive qualities of first person games because it makes it's easy to suspend disbelief and kind of get into the character, right? You actually with first person view, it just removes that one. It's like, you know, with a third person shooter, I can enjoy a third person shooter, but I don't enjoy a third person shooter as much as I enjoy a first person shooter. Like,
rather than like the Diablo top down model.
Right, yeah. And I mean even Diablo, it's a good time sink, but like I don't have the same connection to my character in Diablo, any of the Diablos that I've played, like I do with my character in Destiny or even in Halo to a degree. Like, because with that first person, it's that perspective. Perspective is very important in immersion.
Right.
That being said, like squad based is really difficult for me because, first off, most squad bases are third person view, and I'm not a huge fan of that. Plus, it's when it gets to be a point where it's like mechanics are like the driving factor, which is probably a good explanation of why I've not been playing a lot of Destiny, is because when it gets to a point where I have to constantly be calculating DPS, like I have to do enough calculations in my head for my job. I don't play video games on console because I want to continue calculating. I play them to kind of escape from that.
Right.
And so for me, it's like the simpler the better, as far as that is concerned. that also being said, I am a big sucker, like I've said, I'm a big sucker for open world, which is kind
Right.
of contradictory. I understand that. Because open worlds is often where you have to have a degree of problem solving to kind of, progress. Um, One of my pet peeves is when it's poorly executed illusion of open world. And I'm going to rag on Destiny just a little bit here because that's really what Destiny is it's an illusionary open world. Um, because like with an open world, your decisions actually affect the storyline. So like with Skyrim, if I choose to go right instead of left, that actually affects the story arc in that game. Um, I understand the
Well, yeah,
limitation.
that's a big there's a big difference between a
Solo play,
railroaded,
yes, yeah,
yeah, kind of that
right, right,
railroading type storytelling, which is what Destiny often has because you
correct,
don't necessarily get to make a decision on do you kill Aldrin or do you not kill Aldrin
right,
as
right.
the biggest example.
And that is the biggest example. Um, and I mean, and so there's that like component, because that to me that actually breaks me out of immersion. Like when it's a hallway shooter, which is kind of all shooters is like run to point A to point B. It's like don't think about it, just kind of run there. Um, that actually breaks me out of immersion because my personality is like I'm gonna be running and I'll be like, oh, what's that? Like I mean, like I am pretty ADD when it comes to gameplay because I will literally get distracted by something, and I'll want to just walk over and look at it, like because I'm like I
Right.
want to know
But
what's going on with it.
this hallway shooter model though is very similar to what you had like in the old arcade side
Yes.
scrollers.
Oh yes. Yes.
It's really just an evolution of that side scroller where
Hmm.
the biggest one that pops into mind is the Ninja Turtle one. And
So
I
we're
mean,
gonna go from Ninja Turtles to Dark Souls. Got it. Okay.
I mean, in some ways it is. In Dark Souls, granted, Dark Souls, I
Oh,
just don't like that game. I know some people love it, and I get the accomplishment of it is just such an amazing feeling, but fuck that game. Just no. I'm sorry. I don't want to get punished. I just want to
just
play.
dodge. Just dodge more.
I
Just
no.
keep rolling. Keep
God,
rolling.
did you see the gif of the live action gift of the Geralt and some enemy
Oh
and it's this
no.
cosplayers and it's when you haven't figured out the mechanics yet on how to fight and all he's doing is dodge rolling around the guy. Oh, it's so funny.
I'm gonna have to
Oh
go look
god.
this up.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It was on Reddit yesterday. I don't know if it's still there. It was on the gaming Reddit subreddit. Anyway, the fact that shooter games have developed the way they have with this style of shooter game, Destiny, Borderlands, shooter games that have story built into them, not
Hmm.
not necessarily like the Halo model PvP or Overwatch
Right,
where
right,
there's
right,
not
right.
a story built into it. It's really the grandchild of the original arcade games where you have the side scrollers. Obviously not like Galaga or anything like that because those are just more of your I don't know what you would call kind of the descendants of Galaga or those Frogger type games.
Galaga, I would say, is a shooter, like just a pure shooter.
Right, but
Um,
there's not a hallway. It's just
well, no, but I mean, it's
dexterity to a
it's
single screen.
right. I mean, that goes back into the subjectiveness of genres, though, because like,
Right.
but Frogger, yeah, Frogger, I think, maybe a platformer,
Yeah,
maybe.
kind of. I mean, it's Prince of Persia is definitely been updated to like Assassin's
Oh
Creed
God,
or
yeah,
trying to think some of the other older games that have just really
Mario.
defined Mario, I mean for platformer.
Talking
Uh
about the evolution of games, look at Mario. Mario has gone like, Zelda's up there too. It's
yeah.
they went from 8-bit to now it's whatever Breath of the Wild is. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Well, you still have like that 8-bit style game in
Mhm.
Pokemon.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of the original platform style or just I don't even know, explorer style
Mhm.
Pokemon. I don't know if you'd
I'd
consider
almost
that
say like
fair.
adventures
Yeah.
fighting.
I mean, those are still around and they're still big. They just been modified. And I was listening to a TED Talk radio hour about how nothing is original anymore and how nothing ever really was original. It's
Mhm.
just building on something from before because that's how we adapted and invent new things is you take something else and you put them together and it's something new, right? That's just the how inventions oftentimes work. And the video games really do follow that same style because if you think about the original video game, the Pong game, right? The ping pong game.
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember if there was one even older than that.
Well, I
It's
mean, like, so, like I mentioned, I told you I was going to break this book out. Um,
do it.
so I just recently got a copy of Reality is Broken by Jane McGonigal, and it's really, I've only read the introduction. I'm already hooked on this book, but she actually makes the point that, like, I mean, gaming in and of itself, like the concept of gaming, not video games, but just like the actual like playing games. I mean, we have records dating back to the times of Herodotus,
Yeah, Egypt has games.
the Mancala,
Mm.
and she actually quotes Herodotus, and it's basically like when Ateas was king of Lydia in Asia Minor some 3,000 years ago, a great scarcity threatened his realm. For a while, people accepted their lot without complaining in the hopes that times of plenty would return. But when things failed to get better, the Lydians devised a strange remedy for their problem. The plan adopted against the famine was to engage in games one day so entirely as to not feel any craving for food, and the next day to eat and abstain from games. In this way, they passed 18 years, and along the way, they invented the dice, knucklebones, the ball, and all the games which are common. So it's and kind of going back into what you're like talking about with like or the TED Talk. You
Mhm.
know, looking at this, like she goes on to talk about like we often think of immersive gameplay as an escapist, as a kind of a passive retreat from reality. But through the lens, and she says, but through the lens of Herodotus' history, we see how games could be a purposeful escape, a thoughtful and active escape, and most importantly, an extremely helpful escape. For the
Right.
Lydians, playing together nearly full-time activity would have been a behavior highly adaptive to difficult conditions. Games made life bearable.
Well, think about like some of our top threes we've done. We've done like top three games from children or our youths, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if that was an exact top three, but I know we've discussed it before. I grew up playing card games. That was just something common in my house. I played a ton of different card games and ended up teaching one of my nieces how to play it this Christmas, King's Corner. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
games games are a way that in my family it was a way for us to engage with any friendly competition that wasn't it was focused. It was a friendly, focused competition that isn't detrimental because you get into the debates and stuff like that. But it was a way to engage with another person that was fun. It was just you still have a competition. It's not like I'm going to cut off your finger if you lose this game kind of thing.
It wasn't
It's
spoons. I mean,
no. Oh my God, spoons is so deadly. Nerds is deadly too, and if any of the listeners have ever heard of the game Nerds, I am very proud of you, and I wanna know who you are, and if you're coming to GCX, because if you are, I'm gonna bring a deck of cards, and you bring a deck of cards, and we're gonna play Nerds, and I'm gonna wreck your face. I may be a little competitive at that one.
well, and that kind of goes into the other thing that we were talking about is like the attitude towards gaming,
Mhm.
which it cracks me up because like what you just said, you grew up
Mhm.
playing games.
I did.
It's just not video games. So
No.
like to
No.
me, it's like well, so video game. I mean, I understand there's a difference. Like I get that, but at the same time, there's also not that big of a difference. Like gaming is in the same genre. It's the same concept. It's just a different medium.
Well, it's like I explain to people I don't watch TV. There's very few shows I choose to watch. And gaming, the reason why I don't like watching TV is because it's so passive. I don't actually feel connected to the show unless there is something intrinsically somebody I see myself as. Like Big Bang Theory is the one that both Julie and I watch a ton of. We own all the seasons and we're finishing the last season now. And I see a lot of myself in the characters just because they're very, very nerdy and that's something I can relate to. But most TV shows I can't get into because I don't have that connection. Video games, I can directly insert myself into the story and really ride with it, just enjoy. Immersion is a big thing. And not necessarily escapism per se, but that engagement with a medium is really important to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see.
What is the most frustrating game you have ever played? Not necessarily because it was broken,
No, I
but
know
because
because it was like difficult.
right. Like it may not have been super difficult, but you may have gotten like really stuck on this one spot type thing. Because there are super
God,
difficult games.
there are a few.
Right, like Dark Souls is obviously like the major one that I'm just like, "Mm-mm, I don't want to go back to." But a game that was still fun that you got stuck on, that you
So like the
still
one that
kept fighting for it.
yeah, the one that immediately comes to mind is actually God of War, the original God of War. Um, that was well, there's a particular segment and near the end of the mat and end of the game where you have to climb up these rotating discs, and
Okay.
there it's basically it's a platforming aspect within it. um, and so, but it's like it's a third person game or third person view, so
Mhm.
it's very aggravating because it's very similar. It reminds me a lot of the original Resident Evil. Like the camera angle was actually your worst enemy, not the actual level. Um, and so there was that. But like it was also one of those things that when I finally got like it was when I was in college, and so I was playing, and I did not know this, but my roommates had decided to have a party, and so I was in my room just playing, and I was back. It literally took me. It took me like an hour and a half to get through this stupid thing, and when I finally got done with it, I was like, I had been so focused, I did not realize that everyone in the party had filtered into my room and was standing behind me watching. And everyone was like, yeah. And it was probably one of the largest heart attacks I've had because I was like, whoa, okay, there's more than just me focused on this game. But,
Right.
I mean, that was one of them. Like the old, we kind of make fun of it, but like the old Ninja Turtles,
Mhm.
just because that game is impossible.
Right. Well, like the lava level on the Aladdin, which,
Yeah.
by the way, apparently they remade it and you can get it on PlayStation, Aladdin and Lion King. Both games were incredibly difficult.
Yeah,
Just saying.
Lion King had some rough,
The Stampede
rough.
level
Yes,
was terrible
it
and
was
so hard.
and it was so stressful.
Right.
I remember Lion King. As soon as you said that, I was like,
God.
yeah, the jumping out of the oh my gosh, that was. I remember playing that at a friend's house and being like, okay, I'm gonna beat this, but
Mhm.
I might say some things.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. There's some games out there that do a really good job of once you get hooked into them enough, if you hit that wall.
Yeah, the other one that actually comes to mind is Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, that's a good
Because
one.
I remember playing that. I played it back when it was like when it first came out on the N64. We didn't have this cool thing called the internet like we do today. I mean, the internet was there, but it was like we didn't have like tap a tap tap, right there. You had to
Right.
doo-doo-doo, all that. And so really, if you didn't have like we also never bought like the player manuals like or the game guides. We never got those.
Mhm.
And so you had to figure everything out really kind of on your own or with with the friends that were sitting there with you. And I remember the Ocarina of Time, the water temple. Oh
Oh
my
gosh.
god, figuring that thing out, like, with it was me uh and a friend of ours. Yeah, Donkey Kong Country had some of these too, but like me and a friend, I was over at his house and I literally played that stupid temple like all night. And we fell asleep and I woke up like after like 2 or 3 hours because I was so dedicated to getting, and we did it. But it
Right.
was like, but it was one of those things where, that that type of like playing doesn't really exist anymore because the
Well,
internet kind of is
right.
around.
And there are people who will still go into encounters and try to figure them out on their own without
Right,
going
right.
to the internet. It's not like you can't do that anymore. It's just a lot of people, I mean, game guides don't really exist in the same fashion that they used
No, they
to.
don't. Mm-mm. Not with
Um, mo-
Wikipedias or wikis now. Wikis
well,
make
yeah,
everything
even
right
then,
there.
like the Destiny guide is more of a compendium of the world
Oh,
rather
yeah,
than,
that's true. Yeah.
and that's I think the model that most game guides have moved to is just this is a compendium of the world. These are the maps, these are the enemies, this is what kind of missions, so maybe give you like the mission guides in there, depending
Hmm.
like Skyrim I still think has the mission guides in theirs
Yes,
for
Skyrim.
the main
That's why Skyrim's
big
is like
part.
the size of a Bible. Like
Right.
that thing's
But like
huge.
the the thing that is interesting with to your point as far as the developer side of it is that game design, puzzle design has changed dramatically over the years. You still have aspects where they have that tiny little hint, but it seems like they've guided it slightly more depending on the game. Like Destiny puzzles are really actually not super crazy difficult to figure out unless it's like a raid because a lot of times you're
Yeah.
building upon mechanics that you had
Hmm.
before. So you have to remember what you've done before and then you have a new thing and like we went into um the Hydra clan went into the Galrun raid when for
Oh,
day
okay. Yeah.
1.
Hmm.
And we actually figured out the mechanics really freaking fast for the first room. We just couldn't execute them well enough because we didn't have the
I think.
patterns down.
Yeah, because I think that's the separation, right? Is it's not figuring out the mechanics necessarily. Not to say that there
Right.
aren't difficult mechanics. It's the executing of those
Right.
mechanics because it's gotten
And that's
so specifically refined.
right. And I think that is the major shift from it. And interestingly enough, like if you go back and play some older games are not any easier per
No,
se. Like
no, they're
there's some
not.
really challenging games back there. Like some of the older stuff is
Ocarina of Time
really
is still up
oh my
there. Like,
gosh. Not even that. Wolfenstein is not exactly easy
oh yeah,
either.
yeah, that's true. Hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of a lot of games out there that are still equally difficult. They just have done it differently.
Well, because
Also,
I
no
remember
aim
when they
assist.
ported the. I remember it was. I think it was the GameCube that they ported all the Zelda games onto, like
Hmm.
way back when that was a thing. And I remember getting it and be like, I'm gonna go play Ocarina of Time again, and I got stuck in the stupid temple again. I was like,
Right.
are you kidding me? Like, I was just like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I've already beaten you. I'm not doing this again. Like, but but it was like, I mean, exactly what you're saying. It's like it wasn't like I've learned as a gamer what to think about this. No, no, it was still just, and oh my gosh, it was just like it's one of those things where there are some of those games that just that really do, for whatever reason, stand out. And um oh, let's see, Portal is another one that I know a lot of people who can't stand Portal because they can't get a hang of.
Nauseous.
I don't know if it's that or if it's they just can't get a hang of the concept of how to place the shots.
Right.
Like,
Well,
because you
that's,
have
I mean,
to.
that's definitely a puzzle game
Oh yeah, yeah, I love
in many
Portal.
ways. Right. And I think that's the thing I find that I love most about games is they make you think outside of the box
Hmm.
about all sorts of different aspects, whether it's the actual gameplay or if you're into shooters or in competitive gameplay, it makes you think about how battles are actually fought or how in basketball, like I think of map on Overwatch very much so like a basketball game, knowing when to push, knowing when to pull back, knowing when to feint one direction and go the other. It's it's very strategy oriented, and then you get into puzzle games that are just completely built around brain teasing
Hmm.
and how do I have to think a different way. So you're still developing not only the dexterity in your hands, which is something I talked about a little bit in top three, because there's an older gentleman I work with who just picked up video games for the first time. You're not only developing the dexterity, but you're also developing the mental gymnastics or the flexibility to work your way around some of these different things. Trials, Evolution, the BMX game, it's as much about the dexterity of your hands and knowing the how to hit a jump and how to land from this and how to best plan your trajectory to where you're going to shave off as much time as possible. Or like Rocket League, oh my gosh, watching people play Rocket League competitively, it's such a simple game concept. It's soccer with RC cars. But the stuff that those guys can do with their RC cars now, because they've developed not only the skills, but also the mental gymnastics to understand that the angles of where they need to be when, it's fascinating from a psychological and just developmental aspect.
Yeah, I
I
think I
ran
think
us into a
that's
different direction.
no, but I mean that's true, and I think that also is kind of the strength of gaming as a whole. To kind of start drifting towards wrapping up is
Hmm.
like the thing is like, yeah, all these game genres have their own strengths and weaknesses, but overall the whole thing of gaming is really what you were just saying is like the encouraging you to and also providing a safe environment in which to think outside the box. Like role playing games, have been and they've been gaining steam recently too for therapy, because you can
Hmm.
role play your way in situations that are uncomfortable, and there's no danger in doing that in
Well,
the role playing situation.
I would be, and this is probably going to get me in trouble, but I'm going to say so much as that gaming provides people opportunities to fail in a safe way and learn
Yes.
that failure is okay and that
Yes.
you need to fail in order to learn and to accomplish things. So, personally, for me at least, I find that gaming gives me the chance to realize that I got to keep working. I got to keep going. I'm not just going to give up. I'm not just going to turn around because it's hard. I've got to figure out a different way to approach it.
Right.
So,
And I think that's yes. I think that's an extremely important skill set that people, not just gamers either. I mean, that's the whole thing with like that's what makes me so laugh a little bit whenever people poo poo on mobile gaming. It's like, no, because mobile gaming is gaming. Like it's
mhm.
still gaming. Um, but actually in some of the mobile apps, like some of the mobile game apps, failure is like it's built in. Like you have to mess up a couple times to figure out the logic of the game you're playing. Like, I was talking about
Right.
Mahjong.
Mhm.
Every single Mahjong app out there has a different structure on the way that they lay out boards. There is not like there's technically supposed to be logic that, each thing has. But
Mhm.
like the thing is that um every single app has a different degree of that logic built in. So like I've noticed like, and I that's the only reason I bring this up is because I've actually run into this a number of times. I have 3 different Mahjong apps on my phone, and every time I have to remember which one that I'm opening, because the logic of their structure of the game board is completely different. And so
Right.
like whereas one I know that I have to go level by level to match, things, on another one I know going in that they're
You have to
going to be,
mix the
yeah,
levels,
you have to
yeah.
mix the levels, and I hate that one, but I also force myself to play it because it breaks me out of that mold of my mind. And I think that's a benefit of mobile gaming that, a lot of people overlook, because it's not the first person, competitive shooting. It's like, yeah, but it's puzzles. Like, I mean, puzzles like Sudoku, word stuff, what's the word? I think it's Wordscapes. I think is the one that keeps getting pushed out right now. All those things, like there's some really cool twists on like crosswords. I think Wordscapes is the one that's the crossword. It's a crossword / word find thing. It's really like an interesting concept.
There's like words with games. There's
Yeah.
games that are massive as far as like playing with like basically like Clash of Clans type model where you're building up kingdoms and building armies. It's that civilization model kind of thing just built into a mobile. Mobile gaming is no joke. I get way too frustrated and I spend too much time on my phone anyway, so I can't do it. But
listen, Stardew Valley is completely legit.
Julie she plays it every night. Every night. She plays it as we're falling asleep. I'm like, and I'm the one with a problem, right? Like this is the problem. No, she was so proud of herself. She caught all the fish.
Did she get all the fish?
She got all the legendary fish. And I used to give her grief because that was her least favorite part of the game because she was not good at fishing.
Yeah, because I remember
it was timing.
Who was it? Was it Tracheon that was telling us that the challenge for the fish?
Julie has finished it. She's gotten all the fish, and she made sure to tell me to tell it was Issachel's husband also.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And I have been told to tell him that she has also caught all the fish now. And she doesn't think she's a gamer. She's a gamer. She just doesn't play she just doesn't play a lot of the same games I play, which is totally fine. She also refuses to ever pick up Destiny, except for just to make fun of Destiny and let my friends talk to her and tease her while she's running around the map, not knowing where she's staring, because she still doesn't get
completely
3D
legit.
World. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, that being said, roll into shout outs here. What shout outs do you have for this week?
My shout outs go to the game developers because of just the fact of what we were talking about, how games have really, in a lot of ways, they have progressed a great deal since the invention of video games in general. But in some ways, it's a lot of the same tricks used in a variety of different ways. And they're using the tools they have in such unique ways to develop not only great stories, but also great engaging different styles of interactions and challenging us in new ways, new and fun ways. So shout outs to the game devs, whether you're a AAA game dev or an indie game dev, or if you're going to pick up Dreams on PlayStation or whatever platforms it comes out on and you decide you're going to make your own games, shout out to you. Creation is not easy.
And I have two shout outs. First one is, like I mentioned, I picked up these couple books. If you guys haven't read them or if you haven't heard of them, I encourage you to go look at them. They're actually really interesting. And I'll be more well versed hopefully here in the next month or so after I get a chance to read them. But the other thing is, I want to give a shout out, Green. I want to give a shout out to you because of a post that I believe you put out yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
One of the best posts I've read. It was extremely well done. Extremely well said. I did read it. I know.
Oh, good. That has to do with other posts that people who don't actually read it.
I love that follow up, but no. I did. Apparently, I missed drama on social media, which is, I know. Don't everyone act surprised at the same time. But, given that whole scenario, Green had an excellent summary, an excellent presentation, and I was driving, so I couldn't write it, but I really wanted to write being like, this is why Green is the person I have for co-host. Like, this is why I'm proud to call her a co-host, because you did an amazing job in putting that situation in a way that was not inflammatory. Like it was really well described, and I just was really impressed because I understood it, and I don't have that I don't exist in that situation, but it made sense to me, and I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. So big shout out to that for
Thank
just that amazing thing. And again, I did read it.
Yay! Maybe
Because
after this, I will read it so people can have it as kind of a compendium on it. I don't mind putting it out for our listeners if they're not on
yeah,
social
if you
media.
do you want to read it right now real quick before I sign off?
Sure. So this, just as a forewarning, this actually has some pretty difficult details about myself personally, and so just fair warning. There's no profanity or anything like that. It's just a lot of hard things that I've gone through. I know I may lose some of you for this, and I've made my peace with that. The debate has been raging today about the visibility within the game for LGBTQ, and it has really bothered me for a number of reasons. And before you jump to the she doesn't know what she's talking about train, let me assure you I do. During my freshman year in college, I was pulled out of class by my parents who were considering sending me to a church camp designed to help redirect my quote unquote problem. I, later that year, moved in with my girlfriend at the time and proceeded to not speak with my parents for 2 years. I paid for college on my own, and rent was paid for with the help of a solitary family member. I worked and went to school at the same time and am still paying off student loans. So when I say that I understand the bullying and isolation that oftentimes faces LGBTQ, I have a distinct experience that places me in that situation. Now, for the argument about representation. Do I hope and encourage Bungie to have an out character relationship on screen? Yes, but I also recognize there are very few relationships that have been in our faces. The most visible to date has been Anna and Cameron, and the possibility of Mara and Shax. There are so few straight couples mentioned in lore. Ikora and the Researcher come to mind, and Sans Oryx and Zivu Arath. Side note, just on that, Zivu Arath is confirmed female. I had forgotten about that. There are no instances of transgendered characters playing a major role. The world of Destiny is vast, and people have found many stories that resonate with them within both the text and experiences they have had. It is still a world that continues to develop and change. Story arcs come and go, yet the core of the message remains the same. We are all struggling together to overcome not only the things that divide us, but also the things that move against us. We must unite. Perspectives change and grow with more understanding. Continuing my own story, I didn't tell my parents that I didn't tell my parents that they had to be on board with my sexuality. I never forced them to do anything. For me, I was able to live my life, my best life, and show them through years of examples that I'm still their little girl. That my sexuality doesn't change who I am or was, it's just only one facet of me. My wife and I now host yearly my family for holiday celebrations, and my mother, though we still do have difficult, very different political leanings, is now loving and accepting of my wife and I. Now, I am first and foremost a person who has relationships, trials, and struggles like anyone else. The fact that Bungie has represented people in game in the same manner, not by making a show of any character's sexuality, but by allowing those characters to be them, is what I am more interested in. Being represented genuinely in game as people who so happen to be trans or gay or bi is what I want. What I don't want is for the game to start becoming a political platform where the story is manipulated and mutated into agendas. TLDR. Genuine representation is great. Forced only hurts the cause. I trust the writers to continue the trend of bringing in more representation that continues to resonate and be relatable to various people. Yeah.
So, with that, I want to say thank you for your time. And until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer, stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring.
Yay!
All right.
All right. It was good. It was good. And I'm in bed before midnight. Yay. I have to get up in a few hours.
All right.
I'm
I will
stop
get
it
you a drop file for that and stream. You guys have a great night. We will talk to you next week.
Yay. Bye, guys.